Hey everyone, I hope you're doing good. So today we're going to go over an idea of what if Darth Vader survives at the end of Return of the Jedi.
That's impossible!
So it's going to be a really interesting one, and if Disney did create a Star Wars what if series, like they have with Marvel, then I really hope we'll get to see an episode where Vader does actually survive. So before we jump in, it'd be great if you could hit the subscribe button so I can keep you up to date with the latest and greatest within Star Wars, and if you'd like to show your support for the channel, it'd be good if you could leave a like. At the end of Return of the Jedi, when the Emperor is attacking Luke with Force lightning, Darth Vader made a decision to save his son and throw the Emperor down the reactor, and fulfill the prophecy of the Chosen One. He was no longer the Dark Lord of the Sith Darth Vader, but the Jedi that had always been there, but just hidden inside ever since Revenge of the Sith. Anakin Skywalker had returned. Hence the title of the film, Return of the Jedi. It was in his act of saving Luke that he took the full force and then some of the Emperor's Force lightning, which was still shooting from his hands even after Vader had picked him up and threw him down the shaft. The Force lightning hit Anakin, and that was the reason he died. His suit had a weakness against Force lightning to prevent him ever trying to overthrow the Emperor, as he knew that's what Sith do. After all, Palpatine did himself allegedly killing Plagueis in his sleep. But what if the bout of Force lightning that Anakin was struck with didn't damage him enough to kill him? After throwing the Emperor down the shaft, the damage caused by Force lightning would have still had a devastating impact to the suit and his built-in life support system. He'd still be laying there on the floor with the raspy breathing that we see in the movie, but instead of becoming one with the Force, if he concentrated all of his energy and Force power in keeping himself alive, just long enough until he was able to get repaired, the galaxy would have taken a very different shape after Episode 6. Luke would drag him back to the ship and immediately begin work on saving his father's life. Now Luke does have some kind of experience with robotic limbs and how they function, as he of course has a robotic hand himself, and he has been seen carrying out maintenance of some kind on it. I don't think Luke would be much use to Vader or to Anakin when it comes to the life support system, but potentially be doing a few things to buy Anakin some more time, just until he can get a proper medical facility where Anakin will receive all the treatment he needed, and also a much needed suit upgrade, as the one he had as Vader was deliberately designed to be uncomfortable, even painful to wear, as this pain ultimately fueled Vader's hate and made him more powerful with the dark side. And even the technology used was massively outdated. It was outdated even back then when he first put it on, let alone all these years later. Once repaired and upgraded, and if he hasn't already, he'd now meet Leia as Anakin Skywalker for the first time, and not Darth Vader, the enemy of the rebellion for so many years. I'm not sure if Leia would ever forgive him for the many awful things Vader and the Empire had done to the galaxy, blowing up Alderaan, just to name one. But if she did, I'm sure it would take quite a while to say the least. Anakin would join Luke in his adventures all over the galaxy. It's easy to forget that Vader at this point is only 45 years old, which makes him younger than both Mace Windu in Revenge of the Sith and Qui-Gon in The Phantom Menace, which means he would still be of an age to be a very active member of the galaxy and of the Jedi, the new Jedi Order, and not yet at the point of taking a backseat role and letting the younger ones do the work. He appeared older in the movie, purely down to the injuries he sustained on Mustafar, and also probably constantly wearing a mask didn't help either. No sunlight, that kind of thing maybe, who knows.
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
So Anakin would take on the role of training Luke as his father, but also as someone who is greatly experienced in the Force, both with the light and the dark side, and of course, lightsaber combat. Anakin and Luke do have very similar fighting styles, and with Luke also learning both the light and the dark side of the Force from his father, would easily become way more powerful than when we saw him in The Mandalorian Season 2 at that point in time. He would become one of the most powerful Force users in the galaxy, not that he isn't anyway, but I think it'd just be so much more powerful than what we saw or what we've seen of him so far. He would have extensive lightsaber combat training and would have had much easier access to teachings passed down with some of the most powerful Force users in the galaxy. I'm thinking, all the Jedi through the prequel era, even Palpatine as well. He must have trained Vader a bit. This would all come through his father as well, rather than relying on training from Force ghosts, if that did actually happen of course, and from relics left behind from a previous era. Anakin and Luke would search the galaxy together for Jedi and Sith artifacts, holocrons and so on, and eventually start a new Jedi Academy together. Ben Solo wouldn't turn to the dark side and become Kylo Ren due to having all of his family around him from birth to keep him on the right path, including his grandfather. Snoke would eventually come into play still, I feel, but he'd be pretty irrelevant and he'd be no match for Anakin, Luke and Ben Solo together, let's be honest. I don't think Vader actually knew about Exegol as well, otherwise he would have definitely told Luke in episode 6, I feel. Snoke's arrival on the scene may bring forth the knowledge to Anakin that Palpatine is still alive. Perhaps he can sense the presence of his old master through Snoke, or perhaps he always knew Snoke was a project of Palpatine's. However, we can't be sure, and he may just reappear at the same time he did in episode 9. Going forwards to Palpatine's return, the galaxy would be in a very different place than what it was during the rise of Skywalker. The Republic would be thriving, they wouldn't have been destroyed by the First Order, and the First Order wouldn't have actually really got off the ground before the Jedi showed up and completely closed that party down. Due to there being no First Order looking for the map to Luke Skywalker as there was in The Force Awakens, Finn wouldn't be found on Jakku as he was in episode 7, therefore not bringing Rey into the story. I believe she would just remain on Jakku as a scavenger, waiting for her family to return. I can't see her joining the story anyway without the First Order being on Jakku. I just can't see how it would fit. The new Jedi Order established by Anakin and Luke would be in full swing. This Jedi Order wouldn't be binded by the same restraints that they were during the prequels. Knowledge wouldn't be kept from the students, and they wouldn't be turned down training due to their attachments and age, as both Luke and Anakin were older than the average Padawan, and also had these attachments themselves. And I feel these were some of the downfalls of the Jedi Order, especially in the prequel times. So even with Palpatine's Sith fleet, there is no way he'd be able to take on Anakin, and bearing in mind this Anakin is without a suit that is extra sensitive to Force lightning, as it's been upgraded after it turned back to the light. And even though Anakin would be considerably older now, he's still powerful enough in the Force to more than hold his own. Luke, who would still have something to offer in a fight as well, as we saw in The Last Jedi, I think he could still have had it if he needed to. And Ben Solo, the next Skywalker in line, still young and extremely powerful, after already mastering both the light and the dark side of the Force, making them a formidable team. The Skywalker family would finish Palpatine off for good together, finally ridding the galaxy of its ultimate evil, and finally fulfilling the long-standing prophecy of the Chosen One. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you think things would have turned out differently to this, then let me know what you think in the comments. I look forward to reading them, and I will respond to them all. But until the next one, may the Force be with you.